Hi everyone, and yeah, it's great to see so many people here, and I just wanted to say before I kick off, big thank you to the organizers, such a great team here with the AB180 Airbridge team, always like the most professional conference that I speak at, and I speak at a lot of conferences, so yeah, I'm always very, very happy to come and speak here. Yeah, and thanks to Roy, of course, for inviting me. So I'm going to talk a bit today about AI and how we're applying it at Phiture, my mobile growth consultancy, in the world of games, mobile games and apps. So a bit about me. I started my career back in Nokia back in 1999, so I'm quite old at this point. Yeah, so I was making games for them, basically some of the very first mobile games that existed. I made a game called Space Impact, which was one of the very early arcade scrolling shoot 'em up games on a mobile phone. It was a lot of fun making these games back then. And I spent around 10 years after that building and publishing games as the mobile games industry developed. I took a short break to go traveling around the world for a year, around 2009, and then went to business school 1 year later, ended up at SoundCloud in Berlin, where I was leading mobile growth there for about 4.5 years. And it was while I was there that I published a framework called the Mobile Growth Stack, which I'll show you briefly in a moment. And yeah, it's also, so this framework was basically something which seemed to resonate well with the industry. A lot of folks were very interested in reading that framework and applying that in their business, and I was getting requests from companies asking, can I help them apply this framework in their business? So this is kind of how I set up Phiture, which is the company that I'm still running today. So at Phiture, we help leading B2C brands in the games and the app space to acquire, engage, retain, and monetize mobile users in all markets globally. We work with many of the leading apps and games publishers. You can see a selection of those on the right-hand side. Some of the folks we're working with, we're not allowed to talk about because of non-disclosure agreements, but we're working with quite a few of the big ones. So this is the Mobile Growth Stack framework that I was talking about. I'm not going to go through the whole framework today. I do have it in Korean, however. In previous years, I've translated all my slides into Korean, so apologies that I'm not doing that this year. I was in a bit of a rush to get my content together. So big thanks to the translators sitting in the box over there at the back. Really appreciate the real-time translation. But if you would like a high-definition copy of this framework in Korean, just come talk to me afterwards or write to me on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my LinkedIn QR code up at the end, and I'll happily send you a copy as a PDF. Okay, but I'm not here to talk about the mobile growth stack today. I really want to talk about AI and share some real-world examples of how we're actually deploying AI with some of the companies that I showed you on the previous slide there. And I want to start off with just a quick story about back from 2018 when I was asked to make some predictions for, I was at a strategy day of a e-commerce group in Germany. So my company is based in Germany, in Berlin, and another German company asked could I come and keynote at their strategy day. So I kicked off their strategy day with a talk about the future of mobile. They wanted to know what is going to be happening in mobile in the future. So back in 2018, these were some of my slides actually. They're just small versions, but so I started off by talking about how Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, VC firm, he famously coined the phrase, software is eating the world. I'm not sure if you remember this, but software was eating the world back then. That was the big thing. And then later, it took a while because the world is big, right? So people were talking about software eating the world for some time. But then another guy, Jeffrey G. Parker, I think is how he goes by, he said he came up with this new idea that actually platforms were eating the world. So platforms were kind of eating software, and which were eating the world. So Parker saw platforms not merely as software, but also as just marketplaces which enable producers and consumers to transact in mostly open ecosystems. And his assertion complements earlier ideas from Mark Andreessen's software is eating the world. And so, first software disrupts industries, and then platforms redefine how value is created and distributed within those industries. And so my contribution to the whole debate, for what it's worth, was that artificial intelligence will eventually eat the platform. And I think I'm not too wrong on that, actually. Like, I think now we see that there is actually a risk, actually, that brands might lose a bit of control of the customer relationship, because the artificial intelligence platform, it might actually, when there's AI agents doing things like, doing price selection and making bookings, actually it's the AI that has the relationship, with the consumer rather than the individual brands. So I do think that artificial intelligence is eating the platform. And we also see that platforms are starting to put up protection so that they don't get eaten by AI. They're making their platforms harder for AI agents to access in some cases. So, but we'll see. I think AI will eat the platform. Anyway, I finished my presentation back in 2018 with the prediction that by 2030, we're probably going to have a robot apocalypse of some kind, and humanity is maybe doomed. And I do think that we're on track for that. We've got 5 years. I think it's probably going to happen. But for now, it's great, right? Like AI is like having a magic genie that can, obey our commands and do really cool stuff. I think in the future there's going to be some interesting times ahead. But for now, it feels like magic, right? And it's driving real business impact. So for the rest of this presentation, I'm going to focus on practical and positive applications of AI in growth marketing today. Okay, so AI really is redefining growth. There's many things which it enables, and it's really good at like finding patterns, predicting future behavior, creating assets, creating creative assets, and it can learn from results and get smarter, right? And I think that what's really interesting is what we're seeing. This is not just me talking about it. I'm seeing it in the industry right now. Is that when combining AI and automation, particularly, we see that the whole paradigm of data-driven growth experimentation changes, right? The unit economics of data-driven growth experimentation changes, because suddenly the cost of running another experiment, instead of becoming like linearly more expensive, the cost gets cheaper. It's essentially free to run another experiment, particularly if you're able to generate the assets for that experiment as well. And with the automation and the ability to run many experiments in parallel, and I'll show examples of how we're doing this at Phiture, it really creates this flywheel of growth, which it's very difficult to replicate manually. We can see that it's really possible to run hundreds or even thousands more experiments per month using AI and automation than it is to do it manually. And by running lots and lots of experiments, you get to those outsized wins. So it's like high cadence experiments, high volume, elevated win rates, and a system that gets smarter and smarter as it runs. It's costs are falling, impact is increasing, speed of iteration is also increasing. So that's those three things together create a very different playground for companies that are progressive enough to seize the initiative and to work with AI in growth experimentation. So I want to give some proper examples. I'm a big fan of Hunter S. Thompson. He was once quoted as saying, "The edge, there's no honest way to explain it, because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who've gone over." Okay, and that quote from Hunter S. Thompson is very relevant to AI adoption in the growth space today. We see a lot of folks who aren't brave enough yet to really lean into AI. A lot of companies who are, they maybe they're pretty excited about trying out some new AI solutions, but when they really see what it can do at the edge, they get a bit cautious, right? And I think it's good to be cautious, but the ones that are brave enough to really go over the edge and really put the AI in control and see what it can do, we're seeing that they're getting really great results in many cases. And I will show you these examples in a second. I know I keep saying I'm going to show you some examples, and then I just keep talking. But one thing that I have observed as well is that a lot of companies are not yet ready for going over the edge with AI, right? A lot of folks, they want to go straight from 0 to 100, and there are maybe some steps in between that they need to do in order to really get the benefits from AI. And I would say some of that stuff is like ensuring proper tracking of events and user properties. AI is only good as the data that flows into it. And so you need to get that data infrastructure right, as well as the right marketing tech components to make that data available and actionable in the right places, right? Now, if you're a company that doesn't have the right data in a well-organized format, if it's not available in the right places to actually action that data and turn insight into action, then you're not really ready to leverage AI solutions, at least not to their fullest. So in order to reap the full benefits of AI experimentation, the team should have the data infrastructure and a growth mindset in place. You also need to be comfortable with running experiments, right? And that might sound obvious to most of you here. I'm sure a lot of you are already running growth experiments, but believe it or not, there's still a lot of companies out there who aren't that comfortable running things as an experiment. They want to design one thing and just deploy it into the market, and they think it's going to be the best thing, but they're not testing. And if you're not testing, and if you're not comfortable trusting the data and trusting the technology, then you're probably not going to get the benefits from AI. Okay, so some stuff that we've actually built. I'm going to show you 2 AI solutions and a short case study at the end. And I'm going to cover a couple of different areas of the growth funnel. So this first one I'm going to talk about is for Apple Ads, or Apple Search Ads as it used to be called. They just renamed it Apple Ads now. We've built an AI reinforcement learning bidding engine called, we call it Catchbase. We used to call it ASAI, confusingly, but we just rebranded it today. So now we're calling it Catchbase, but it doesn't matter what we're calling it, right? I want to just tell you what it actually does. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who are not familiar with Apple Ads, basically works very similar to other search auctions. You can bid on keywords in each market, so of course keywords in different languages in different markets. And you bid on those keywords, and if you bid more than the other people who are bidding on that keyword, then your ad gets shown. It's just an ad auction. Okay, a lot of apps and games spend money on both brand defense as well as tapping into high-intent audiences that are searching for relevant keywords. Recently, Apple also enabled advertisers to bring traffic to keyword-specific CPPs, custom product pages, to create a more tailored store listing that reflects user intent based on the keyword they searched. So in other words, if I'm searching for apples, then I'll get an apple-based keyword. So apples is a terrible example because I'm not talking about Apple, the manufacturer. Let's say I'm searching for a racing game, right? Then I'm searching for cars. Then the landing page can show me cars if you have a racing game which also includes cars. Okay, so you can create a more tailored store listing that reflects the user intent based on the keyword they searched. So the classic solutions to this is either that you have somebody manually updating your bidding based on just what you see results-wise every day or every few days, or you're using one of the commercial solutions out there. There are some platforms which claim to automate a lot of this stuff, and they're optimizing for cost per install or a cost per action goal. Usually not for ROAS, for return on ad spend, because it's more complex to optimize for that. And what we see is that actually most of the current solutions out there, even the ones that claim to be AI, are actually just using simple rule-based bidding. So they have a few very basic rules, and they're kind of just comparing, okay, is the bid, above or below this value? Is it doing this or is it doing that? And they change the bids like once every 24 hours or so. Okay, what we built was a reinforcement learning system. This is constantly optimizing. Might be changing the bids even multiple times per day. It's looking at what is the current environment in the App Store, and it's always continually optimizing to achieve your goal, whether that's a better CPI, or a better CPA, or a better ROAS. You can optimize for ROAS as well. So instead of adjusting bids once every few days, based on some crude thresholds or simple rules, what we're doing is perpetually recalibrating bids based on observing movements in the App Store. And what we're seeing is that outperforms other bidding solutions by around 20 to 30%. So it means you can spend 20 to 30% more. Now, the platforms like Apple aren't really that interested in advertisers saving money. They quite like it when advertisers don't save money because Apple gets to keep it all. But it's actually in everyone's best interest if advertisers can advertise more efficiently, because hopefully they can redeploy those savings to buy even more ads, which then also benefits Apple. So just quickly, what is machine learning and what is reinforcement learning? To make it really simple, machine learning is like a static model. It's trained on some training data. It's understanding and identifying patterns. It understands how to optimize towards a goal, and it's basically it's good at making predictions. It's predictions based on a static data set. And if you need to, if the environment changes, then that model will become less useful. Or you need to actually retrain it with new data. Okay? Reinforcement learning is dynamic. So machine learning static, reinforcement learning dynamic. So with reinforcement learning, it's constantly learning and adapting to new changes in the environment. So yeah, as I said, we call it catch base. It's basically getting smarter all the time. We keep advancing the model. So now it's also looking at the impact that changing a bid on one keyword has on the performance of all the other keywords. So it's we think it's pretty cool. It's getting smarter, and it's been really interesting to build this and see that it's making, it's getting real results out there for paying customers. What we've also built is something that automates App Store optimization using generative AI on the Play Store with massive parallelization. So if you've got the traffic, you can run 300 experiments a month with Press Play, which is what we call our ASO solution for Android. And so what it's doing, it's basically got AI at every point in the system. We train the model for each customer separately based on their Play Store reviews, based on all of their assets, not just the ones that we can see in the store and all their historical App Store, Play Store assets, but also all of the new assets that and all of the assets that they can share with us that they have inside the game as well. So it's really learning and training how to represent the characters, how to represent the IP of the game. And then it starts to run experiments. It builds hypotheses. It starts to run experiments based on all of these inputs. And the first experiments, they always lose, right? But it also analyzes, okay, it ran this asset, it could be an icon, could be a feature graphic, could be a short description. It looks at this versus the one that won, so in other words, usually the control group in the first case. And it sees, okay, why is this losing? Why is it winning? Whether it's a win or a loss, it's trying to understand why, and it builds a new hypothesis, which then informs the next iteration of the experiment. And usually after a few loops around that, few iterations, it's already outperforming the original asset. And it gets pretty quickly to pretty awesome results. Here's an example from Anakin Life, which is a free-to-play 3D social simulation game from Lockwood Publishing. And they saw huge conversion increases through iterative automated icon testing, for example, with Press Play. That 57% conversion uplift was within 2 months. And so again, I want to just sort of reiterate, like, this is the paradigm shift that I'm talking about. It's not about the specific solutions that we've built. I think you can see this pattern in many other places as well. If you build a system which can learn, which can deploy tests automatically, and ideally quickly decide whether they're winning or losing, and then quickly deploy the next test, you can build these very fast, very effective loops that quickly iterate towards better performance. You know, if it's learning from the results and then trying something better, it really changes the unit economics of growth. I'm going to speed up a little bit here because I have just 4 minutes left and I want everyone to get to their lunch on time. So here's just a couple of other examples, screens from press play, just to show how we're how it looks in practice. You can set a whole bunch of rules about when it should deploy an experiment, when it should choose a winner. So it's kind of like a automated experiment deployment and prioritization rules. It builds like a backlog like this. There's always a continuous backlog for as many markets as you want to run tests in. It can do also like every country simultaneously, provided you have enough organic traffic. So usually the bottleneck is the review process. Normally somebody from the publisher wants to actually go through and review these assets before it deploys them live, which is pretty sensible. But if you wanted to just let it run on full auto, it would run even faster. Okay, so I want to just finish up this talk giving an example from lifecycle marketing, right? So down the funnel. So we looked at paid marketing. We talked about organic acquisition of app and game users. And now I want to talk very quickly about lifecycle marketing. So you can apply a lot of the same kind of predictive analytics, personalization. I think personalization is kind of a key theme across the whole funnel, and building kind of more cohesive user journeys powered by predictive analytics. And what we did with HBO Max, so this is a great example, I think, of like a collaboration between several companies. So we worked with Braze, which HBO was using. So HBO is a Braze customer. Phiture, my team came in and helped HBO to leverage AI, which they had built and which was already existing within their product, a great personalization recommendation engine, which was giving really great personalized recommendations to users within the product, but not within the CRM. So within Braze, they were just still recommending titles just very generically, not very good segmentation, not much personalization, just basically recommending whatever was new in the catalog in each of the countries they were operating. And what we did was we built an internal API which exposed the recommender engine, which was available within the product of the HBO Max app, and made that available to Braze, made that data. It's about unlocking and unleashing the power of the data that already existed, and then building basically an interface into Braze. It's more than just the API. We also built all of the sort of campaign structure that would pull recommendations automatically and then deliver them as like rich push notifications or in-app messages. And we got some really great results with that as well. So it's not always about having to build all of the AI yourself. You can also, it's sometimes just about like taking what's already there and making it available in a different part of the marketing team or the marketing ecosystem. This was incredibly impactful for HBO Max, and it's continuing to drive them great impact by giving people better recommendations based on their personal watch history. Okay, so just to wrap up, some key learnings from the past couple of years at Phiture, where we've been building and deploying these kind of like AI solutions in the market. It's really important to understand what success is supposed to look like. If you don't know what you're trying to improve, you probably won't improve it. It's not good enough just to have insight. You need to combine that insight with action, right? And that's really where the magic happens, along with building automated feedback loops so that the system can get better and faster all on its own. Okay, and if you build the right systems, growth experimentation unit economics can radically improve. We've seen it in many cases. So I want to say thank you very much for your time and attention today. I'd love to continue this conversation. Hopefully I'll meet some of you later and have a chat. You can add me on LinkedIn, or you can reach me with my contact details here. And if you'd like to fill in a survey for this session, the organizers at AB180 would be super grateful. I would also be happy to see your feedback. So thank you very much. Thanks for your time.